Welcome, traveler. Tonight, we drift through the quiet corridors of history, not for tales of glory, but for the curious, strange, and haunting ways in which lives ended. Some were tragic, some poetic, some absurd, but all of them whisper stories that echo long after breath is gone. Let's begin not with a king or a warrior, but with a monk. In the year 391, a Christian monk named Telemachus walked into the heart of Roman spectacle, the Colosseum. There, he saw men about to kill each other for sport. He stood between them and begged for peace. The crowd, drunk on bloodlust, turned their fury toward him. They stoned him to death. But his death was not in vain. A few months later, the gladiator games were abolished by imperial decree. Telemachus' quiet resistance was louder than the swords around him. From martyrdom to indulgence, Adolf Frederick, King of Sweden, died from dessert. In 1771, he devoured a feast that included lobster, caviar, and sauerkraut, all topped off with 14 servings of semla, a rich, sweet bun soaked in warm milk. Hours later, his stomach rebelled. The official cause? Digestive problems. He became known forever as the king who ate himself to death. And then there was a philosopher who tried to outthink death and failed. Heraclitus of Ephesus believed in the purifying power of fire. When he fell ill, he covered himself in warm dung, convinced the heat would cure him. But the philosopher miscalculated. He suffocated, buried by his own belief. Irony is a patient predator. Sometimes it struck mid-battle, like during the Battle of Hastings in 1066. English King Harold II is said to have taken an arrow directly to the eye. Whether fact or legend, his death symbolized the end of Anglo-Saxon rule. One arrow changed the fate of a nation. Centuries later, another man would take a leap of faith, literally. Franz Reichelt, a tale with dreams of flying, invented a coat that doubled as a parachute. He tested it in 1912 by jumping off the Eiffel Tower. He plummeted to his death in front of a crowd and cameras. His invention failed. But in a strange way, his dream didn't. Franz became a symbol of fearless ambition. And its cost. Let's slow down now. Drift further back. Japan. 1582. Oda Nobunaga, one of the most powerful warlords in Japanese history, was betrayed by a trusted general. Surrounded and outnumbered, he didn't run. He locked himself inside a temple and performed seppuku, ritual suicide. Then he set the building ablaze. His body was never recovered. Only ashes remained. But his legend only grew. Not all epic deaths come with fire and swords. Sometimes the earth itself devours the living. Pompeii, 79 AD. When Mount Vesuvius erupted, ash fell like snow. Within hours, the city was buried. Time stood still. When the ruins were uncovered centuries later, people were found frozen in their final moments. Some shielding their children, others holding hands. They were not famous, not rulers, but death immortalized them. And sometimes, death was a lesson performed for a crowd. In medieval Europe, public executions were entertainment. Morality plays in flesh and blood. But one man stood apart, Sir Walter Raleigh, accused of treason. He approached the scaffold with calm. He looked at the executioner's axe and joked, "This is a sharp medicine, but it is a physician for all diseases." Even in the face of death, he spoke like a poet. But not every death had grandeur. Aeschylus, the Greek playwright, was killed by a tortoise. It said an eagle, mistaking his bald head for a rock, dropped it to crack open the shell. He died by bird. A man who wrote tragedies. Fell by nature's comedy. Or consider Sigurd the Mighty, a 9th century Norse earl. After defeating his enemy, he strapped the man's severed head to his saddle as a trophy. But as he rode, the head's teeth grazed his leg and infected the wound. He died from his victory. In history, pride often bites back, literally. And then there was Tycho Brahe, a brilliant astronomer. He died because he didn't want to leave the dinner table. Etiquette forbade him from excusing himself during a royal banquet. So he held his bladder too long. His urinary system ruptured. A man who measured the stars, undone by manners. You see, death is strange. It doesn't care for timing or poetry or greatness. It arrives when it pleases,